Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. The Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer leaked recently. There were a couple big scenes of Sadie Sink's mystery character speaking with Peter Parker. She's supposed to have powers in the movie, so there were all kinds of theories about who she was playing, and now everyone is saying it's been confirmed that she's supposed to be the new version of Jean Grey for the MCU, and she will go on to be the main Jean Grey and later Phoenix eventually in the X-Men reboot movies that Marvel is making right now. The first new MCU X-Men movie is going to release right after Secret Wars in the new reboot era. That's why we've been calling it the mutant era of the MCU. This answers a bunch of questions we've had about the movie, like why does the Hulk go crazy again? Somebody with psychic abilities probably messes with him. Also, what Marvel is doing long-term with the X-Men after Avengers Secret Wars. Also raises a lot of questions too. So we will break it all down. We already know a lot about the actual plot of Spider-Man Brand New Day. Thank you very much, leaked trailer. Surprisingly, even though Sony and Marvel have not released official versions of the trailer, we've gotten a ton of footage from the movie. Now you need to do, Sony and Marvel, is just release that official version of the trailer. But if you missed it, in the leaked trailer, there was a lot of footage of Sadie Sink's character with the Punisher behind the scenes as well, too, and it was reported during the movie she would be working with Punisher, helping him, and Punisher would be protecting her from damage control. During the leaked trailer, there's a scene of Sadie Sink speaking to Spider-Man saying, "You're a mess, Spider-Man. Don't get in my way. Otherwise, it won't just be your friends who don't remember who Peter Parker is," meaning that she knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, which would make more sense if she is Jean Grey and she has psychic abilities. She can just read his mind and instantly realize that he is Peter Parker Spider-Man. Supposedly, she's also the one mind-controlling the guards in the trailer, leading to the tank chase scene they released all that footage for last year. That was also in the version of the trailer that Sony did release, sort of like the cobbled together behind-the-scenes trailer. And Damage Control is trying to capture her because she is a mutant, and they brand them as dangerous. As you'd expect, a lot of mutant hate coming from the government. It would not be an X-Men-oriented story or a mutant-based story if the government weren't out for them. There was also a lot of footage of Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner in Banner form talking to Peter Parker. There were so many questions about why he turns back into the Savage Hulk, who messes with his mind, who better than someone like Jean Grey, who has psychic abilities and is going to be using them on other characters during the movie. This is basically how Scarlet Witch got him during Avengers Age of Ultron by messing with his mind, showing him all kinds of visions, driving him into a more savage form. But we have another mutant now in the MCU. There have been a couple recently between Namor and Ms. Marvel. This is her, Sadie Sink, on a stretcher being carted into the back of a damage control truck too. So it seems like during the movie they are able to capture her, at least briefly. But reportedly, she's not from the MCU universe originally in the same way that Namor and Ms. Marvel are. I don't think that anybody knows which universe she comes from or if she knew any other X-Men or mutants from her universe, but I believe that it's not supposed to be the same universe from the X-Men Avengers Doomsday trailer because that would be Famke Janssen's version of Jean Grey in that universe. We don't know how Sadie Sink's Jean Grey traveled from her universe to the MCU, if it was an accident or had something to do with the incursions because of what's happening with Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, or it had something to do with Doctor Strange and Spider-Man's spells in No Way Home, or it's some new explainer. You remember Sony tried to use the spells during No Way Home to explain how MCU Vulture got into the Sony Venomverse at the end of the Morbius movie, and then they promptly announced that the Morbius sequel that they were working on, the Sinister Six team-up movie, future Venom movies, other live-action Spider-Man spin-off movies had been canceled, and they were full-on rebooting the Sony Marvel Universe. This is actually the head of Sony, the Sony president, saying that they are going to reboot.
Not at the animated Spider-Verse. Is the larger Spider-Verse dead? Are you gonna go back to those at some point?
Yes.
You will.
Yes.
But it'll be a fresh reboot.
Yes.
New people. Okay.
Yes.
We will unpack the rest of that big reveal in other videos too, like there's a Nicolas Cage Spider-Man Noir TV series that they're releasing this year that's technically part of that, but also not part of that at the same time. So there are a couple things that will survive the Sony reboot, like the Spider-Verse movies are going to be untouched. Beyond the Spider-Verse will not be affected by any of their live-action reboot plans. But I would not put it past Sony to just handwave and say that it's the spells in No Way Home that brought Jean Grey, Sadie Sink to the MCU, and that's the end of it. Like, they won't dig into it that deeply. A while ago, it was reported she was supposed to be a mutant and have psychic abilities, so her being Jean Grey just made way too much sense, and I think when she was first announced way back last year, most people thought that she might be a version of Jean Grey, but there wasn't a lot of evidence at the time. We hadn't gotten any footage at the time, so there wasn't really anything to back up those rumors. Now we have all this brand new footage. More evidence too, Tremel Tillman was announced to be playing William Metzger in the movie in one of the main antagonists, and he's going to be the head of damage control, and he's prominently featured, the William Metzger character, in several anti-mutant X-Men based storylines. More clues about why he would be going after mutants in the movie. Damage control would become this big villain to the X-Men and mutants going forward in the MCU. Because they have Iron Man's drone technology that was a big thing in the last couple of years in the Marvel movies, I would not be surprised if they also wind up being responsible for the Sentinels, like Damage Control is responsible for MCU Sentinels. We actually just saw some comic book accurate 90s looking Sentinels in the X-Men Avengers Doomsday trailer, but because that universe is meant to be more comic book accurate, the backstory for everything in that universe is way different from what they're doing in the new reboot version of X-Men in the MCU.
Who will you be?
Probably the biggest example of that would be introducing your new Jean Grey, like major character, as a Punisher sidekick who comes from another universe. That same president of Sony who said that they're rebooting the Sony Marvel Universe also said that he is amazed by Avengers Doomsday so far. It sounds like he's seen all the footage they've filmed for Avengers Doomsday so far because he is a really powerful person and he's working hand in hand with them on Spider-Man Brand New Day, so it makes sense that Kevin Feige would let him see all this other stuff too. He also said never bet against Kevin Feige, so it sounds like he's also impressed with what Kevin Feige and Marvel are doing with the X-Men and Jean Grey starting in Spider-Man Brand New Day, because he would be heavily involved with the Spider-Man movies, of course, so he's seen what they're doing with her character long term. One of the other cool deep-cut connections here between Marvel, Sony, and X-Men stuff during Tom Rothman, the head of Sony's talk, is when he's going on about Kevin Feige and their Avengers Doomsday plans. Way back in the day, in the time before times, when Kevin Feige was a lowly assistant to Lauren Shula Donner on that very first Bryan Singer X-Men movie, Tom Rothman was also one of the executives at Fox at the time. It was before he had come to Sony to start working on all the Spider-Man stuff. So he has a lot of personal history with Kevin Feige and with the X-Men going way back to the original Bryan Singer X-Men era. We will now see all those versions of the X-Men show up in Avengers Doomsday, or like them, the actors will be back, but they'll be playing slightly different versions of the characters. This also makes it sound like her Jean Grey will return in either Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars, maybe not till Secret Wars. There was also an earlier report that Marvel had chosen to use Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man as the main Spider-Man of Avengers Doomsday instead of Tom Holland's MCU Spider-Man. And at least the way they would explain that on a story level, why Spider-Man isn't around during Doomsday inside his own universe, is that he'd be busy with some other big problem they set up at the end of Spider-Man Brand New Day, like some big post-credit scene. So maybe Sadie Sink's Jean Grey is also part of whatever that is, and that's why she'll be off busy helping him during Doomsday, and then they'll both be back in Secret Wars. Also, because she's younger, Sadie Sink is younger, this would be way easier for them to explain that in her original universe, wherever she came from, she had not yet joined an X-Men team yet and didn't know any other mutants yet. So after Secret Wars, after they reboot the MCU a little bit and do Marvel Phase 7, the Mutant Saga, in this new X-Men movie, when she joins the new MCU reboot version of that main X-Men team, it's a way cleaner transition. She's meeting a Cyclops, a Storm, all the other big characters for the first time, and she's not carrying around all this other baggage of this dead X-Men team that she used to know.
You're here.
Where else would I be?
If she were way older, like an older version of Jean Grey, then that would make more sense. But because she's so young, it's just easier for them to say she's never been on an X-Men team before. So the one that she joins in the MCU eventually will be her first X-Men team. There's also been a ton of other Spider-Man Brand New Day stuff that has leaked out in the past couple of weeks too, particularly with the Tombstone character. But starting with the really big stuff metaphorically and literally, this is Marvin Jones III, who is playing Tombstone in the movie in the MCU now. You probably remember him as Krondon from Black Lightning. He was fantastic as that character, but he also voiced Tombstone already during Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, so this isn't even his first time playing Tombstone. It feels like fate. Just bring back the voiceover actor into live action. They literally just did that with Nicolas Cage's Spider-Man Noir, also from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. Does he not look like he was born to play the role? You can see the wire harness here still attached to Tom Holland's stunt double, so this is very clearly from behind the scenes where they took this picture, but he's wearing his new Spider-Man suit from the end of No Way Home, and that fight scene is meant to be a recreation of the spectacular Spider-Man 142, which coincidentally also features the Punisher, and we've already seen all the footage of the Punisher in Brand New Day. During the leaked trailer, there was a lot of footage of Spider-Man talking to Punisher, Punisher trying to help Spider-Man, as well as a lot of footage of Tombstone giving Spider-Man a speech that was connected to the transformation that we saw him going through in the movie. During the trailer, Tombstone says to Spider-Man, "Spiders have 3 life cycles, and between cycles, it can leave the spider vulnerable to threats. Those spiders that survive go through a kind of rebirth." So the idea is that Tom Holland's Spider-Man is evolving into his next trilogy. Like, he's maturing as a person, just in general, Peter Parker is maturing, but also functionally his actual Spider-Man powers are evolving. Everyone post all your reactions in the comments below and let me know how you want them to use Jean Grey going forward in the MCU, especially after Secret Wars in the new X-Men era of the MCU. There's a bunch of stuff coming up. We'll probably get an official version of that Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer in the next month or two. It probably won't be that long, even though it seems like it's been forever. Why would they release Avengers Doomsday trailers before Spider-Man Brand New Day? Probably because they want to hype up the Doomsday version of X-Men first and wait for the Sadie Sink Jean Grey X-Men reveal till after that. They also just released a bunch more footage for the Nicolas Cage Spider-Man Noir TV series. I'll do a video for that in the next couple of days too, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that. Everybody click here for that video. I'll update the link as soon as I post it, and click here for my breakdown of that leaked Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.